There's some great transfer promos right now, especially if you want to go to Europe or the Middle East. Delta adds a new feature, and Alaska is making some major moves. This and more in today's roundup. Big favor, give us a thumbs up. It really helps even though it's stupid. And if you know someone that might benefit, then share this with them. If the Chase Sapphire Reserve is on your list, this torque high offer is ending soon. You're looking at 150,000 bonus points after you spend 6,000 on purchases in the first 3 months from account opening. There is a $7.95 annual fee, but you also get a ton of credits. The ones I value include the general annual travel credit, the Edit Hotels, which is great for Vegas or Asia, Chase Travel Hotels, that's for this year, dining credit for Sapphire exclusive tables on OpenTable, StubHub and Viagogo, which is great for sports and concerts, also Lyft because I do end up doing a lot of rideshare. There are some other credits that might be more hit or miss. This includes the Apple TV subscription, Peloton credit and multiplier, Dash Pass membership, and also DoorDash promo credits. Back to the intro bonus, it depends on how you value 150k points. For cash back, you're looking at 1 cent per point, which would be 1,500 in value. For points boost, it's a range depending on your use case, but generally 1.2 to 2.5 cents per point, which would be about 1,800 to 3,750 in value. If you are looking to transfer to partners, my target is 2 cents per point, but it can be a lot higher, and at 2 cents, it'd be about 3,000 in value. So a pretty big range, but a good amount of upside if you can finish that spend in time. The return on spend, so the intro bonus divided by total spend, is pretty absurd. You're looking at 25 to probably 50%, and maybe upwards of 62.5 or 75% for some people, which is crazy. You also have downgrade pass in year 2 if the card stops being a fit. If you want to run the numbers, we do have a calculator that should pop up if you search CSR Worth It AskSebby. On that note, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense for you, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. If you're looking to redeem your points, there's a ton of transfer bonuses. The first one is Citi to Qatar Airways Avios, where there's a 30% bonus through June 30th, 2026. Normally, they transfer 1-to-1. In this case, 1,000 thank you points would be 1,300 Qatar Avios. In order to transfer, you need certain Citi cards. The main two for us are going to be the Citi Strata Premier card and the Citi Strata Elite card. The cool thing about Avios is that they can be strategically moved within the Avios family. This currently includes British Airways, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Finnair, and Qatar. There's a ton of good use cases. A fan favorite is Qatar Business Class from North America to Doha for 70k. For example, Miami to Doha for 70k, and this is a 14-hour flight in the A350. This was available as I pulled the screenshot. A bit shorter is DC to Doha, which is about 12.5 hours, and also a pretty good flight. If you'd rather not go to the Middle East right now, given what's going on, Europe is another option. It's a pretty good availability across the board, going to places like Dublin, Edinburgh, or Barcelona. Most of this is going to be with American Airlines. You're looking at 62k points, so a bit shorter of a flight at 7.5 hours, but not a bad use case. If you can find saver space for Iberia, that could also work at 62k to 78k, give or take, depending on where you're going from. For example, Toronto to Madrid, where there's 9 seats and it's 62k. What if you want to go to, let's say, Helsinki? If you ended up using Qatar Avios, you're looking at 180k, which is a lot and doesn't really make sense. In that case, you might want to switch it up. Let's say you turn the Qatar Avios into Finnair Avios at that 1-to-1 rate. Switching with Finnair, you might see Helsinki for 62.5k. Here, it's Toronto to Helsinki, 8-hour flight, 62.5k, and about 172 USD in fees. If you're an aviation enthusiast, this is the no recline business class seat, which is pretty unique. It's surprisingly roomy and comfortable and a fun flight that I'd recommend. And that's whether you want to go to Helsinki or just try the products. The food was also solid and just a fun time. Also fun fact, Finnair is the official airline for Santa Claus. I guess that's how he flies during the off-season. Reminder that given the intertransferability of Avios points, it pretty much means that all the banks transfer to Avios in one way or another. This makes it pretty easy to top off. At the same time, make sure that you have a redemption in mind and ideally find availability before you do that transfer. You don't want to move from a flexible bank program to a more liquid airline program unless you're ready to use it. Next up, we have Rove to Turkish Airlines Miles and Smiles, where there's a 50% bonus through June 30th, 2026. Normally they transfer 1-to-1, so 50% is awesome. In that case, 1,000 Rove is 1,500 Turkish. One of the best use of Turkish miles would be flying to Istanbul in their business class. From the US right now, you're looking at 135k. For example, JFK to Istanbul, which is about a 10-hour flight. If you don't mind doing a 2-in-1 trip or repositioning, then I'd probably do that. For example, Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, or Mexico City are only 65k points for the same business class. So less than half the price for a weekend or layover in Toronto. So here we see Vancouver to Istanbul, which is 12 hours, 65k. Maybe it's because I'm in San Francisco, but I'm just pretty used to repositioning for some flights. On the West Coast, that might be LA, Vancouver, and now Seattle, but I've also done Chicago for ANA and then Detroit for Delta. If you are new to Rove, the easiest way to think of it is at the Rakuten, but for travel, where you get Rove miles for your bookings. So for example, let's say you're paying to book the Conrad Bora Bora out of pocket, you get 12x Rove miles back. Unlike a lot of other portals, Rove bookings count as direct ones, which help if you have elite status for things like breakfast, or for multipliers if you have their cards. Let's say you have the flagship option from Hilton. Doing this booking would yield 10x from being a Hilton member, 10x from Diamond, which you get from the product, and then 14x from having the product itself, and 12x Rove on top of this. And obviously the booking price has to be competitive, but otherwise it's value on top. Probably one of the better stacking tools right now. If you want to check it out, new users get 1500 miles for signing up through our exclusive link. The standard link is just 500 miles, so a bit more. AskSebby.com/Rove, and I'll also link it down below. The last transfer that we'll talk about today is from MR to Air France KLM's Flying Blue program. Here you're getting a 25% bonus until June 30th, 2026. Normally they transfer 1-to-1, so here it's 1000 MR to 1250 Flying Blue. One of the best use cases for Flying Blue is US to Europe. It does depend on the airline and I guess also the destination, but fees are a consideration. Even with the fees, you're still getting great value even against the cheaper summer sale rates of $3,600 round trip for the business class. If you take that number divided by 2, that's $1,800 for the one way. Compare that to 60k points and $315 fees, means that you're getting 2.4 cents per point, which is pretty good. Basically, the idea is that even with the fees and against very comparable rates, it's still a good deal. There are other airlines where the fees are more negligible. For example, let's say we use Flying Blue to book Delta from New York to Shannon for 60k and 33 in fees. Also, in case you're wondering, Shannon is in Ireland. I haven't been myself, but it looks pretty beautiful. Other options in the same vein would be Atlanta to Brussels or Detroit to Munich, which are all through Delta, and it's 80k and about $13 in fees. And again, this is using Flying Blue to book Delta. Out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on fees? I know some people completely avoid them, while for others it depends on the product and whether it just makes sense on the math side. Switching from flights to hotels, IHG has a 15% award discount. This isn't on all their properties, but only on some of them, and it's targeting ones that got renovated or ones that are new to IHG. They have 4 different stay-by dates from August all the way to November. Also, you can book the October and November ones now. It's stay-by date, not start-by. Taking a look at the list, it doesn't seem that interesting, at least for the August stay-by date. Maybe Kimpton and Monterey are the Voco Sandpiper, which is an all-inclusive in Florida. Otherwise, a lot of the other ones are Holiday Inns or Holiday Inn Expresses, which are fine, but not the most exciting. The problem too, at least to me, is that a lot of the US ones want a lot of points. So for example, the Voco Sandpiper is about $300 to $400 a night if you were paying out of pocket. And then looking at the points rate, it's 80k even with this discount. 400 divided by 80k is about 0.5 cents per point. So even with the discount, it's just not a great transfer option. Maybe if you're a road warrior who earns a ton of points from their work travel, then it could make sense, but otherwise it's just tough. Continuing with August, China might also be interesting with a Voco. Oh wow, okay. So it looks decently big and pretty solid, but maybe a bit conferencey. 7,600 points per night, which isn't bad at all. I feel like in the US, I haven't seen under 10k in a long time. The retail price is also pretty affordable at $50 per night, and that's pretty much across the board. $51 divided by 7,600 points is 0.7 cents per point. Still nothing crazy, but at least a little bit more. Also note that this promotion doesn't stack with the 4th night free perk, so a bit less valuable. Let me know if I'm missing any good redemptions, but it just doesn't seem that exciting. Okay, moving into card updates, Delta is doing a minor buff to their financial products. This is actually pretty interesting. Most Delta financial products already include 1 checked bag. It's pretty generous, especially compared to other airlines. For that first checked bag, it's going to be you plus up to 8 people in your reservation for a total of 9 waivers. They're now making this even better, but just for you. You're going to get a second checked bag on domestic flights that are operated by Delta. There are some other terms, but the main thing to know is that domestic flights are the main focus. and also standard bags that are not overweight or oversized. So the first bag benefit is for you and up to 8 people, and second bag benefit is for you, unless those other people in your group also have their own Delta financial products, in which case they would also get a second checked bag. This is on other options that have annual fees, both on the personal side and business sides. Even if you don't fly Delta, I'd argue that this is a net positive since it probably pushes the other airlines to follow suit. As a consumer, more competition is better. On top of this, Delta products are also being updated. I'm not allowed to share the artwork here, but I'll put a blog post down below, or you can search online for it, and I feel like it looks pretty nice, especially the flagship card. We're also seeing a benefit being added to one of the levels, so both in the personal and business sides. You're getting up to $10 a month and up to $120 per year for eligible US rideshare purchases with select providers. It's being added to this level on both the personal and business sides. Note that access to the credit will only happen after the financial product is renewed. The focus here is very much retention. This does match the 2 other offerings that are above this, and I think it is a solid credit. I also do a decent amount of rideshare, so I'm probably biased there. But yeah, the fact that they're making the products better without increasing the annual fee is a welcome change. Speaking of Delta, they are making a huge push for LAX. So the LA airport's pretty interesting. Delta is technically the biggest airline there for the airport at 18.89% market share, but United and American are pretty close behind at 16 and 15%. It seems like Delta wants to get north of 20%. So last year, they announced LAX to Hong Kong starting June 2026, and as of right now, that's actually live. They're also being pretty aggressive with other offerings. For example, the LAX to Shanghai nonstop service was 3 a week a bit ago, and a few months ago, they actually secured slots to make it 5 a week starting in October. Long term, their target is daily service, so 7 a week. This is in addition to more transcontinental routes, so more coast-to-coast ones. In order to support this growth, they are adding more lounges, specifically a second Delta One lounge, and this one will be out of Terminal 2 and will supplement the Terminal 3 lounge. It is going to be a bit of a process. Phase 1 of it is going to open this summer, and you're going to be able to go to it, and the fully renovated lounge is targeted for 2028. The goal being to finish it before the Olympic Games in LA. The current one in T3 is pretty nice already, and it's effectively a sit-down restaurant with good food, and one that I'd actually go to the airport early to enjoy. Even if you're a pickier eater or someone that eats well, I think you'd enjoy the food here. The main issue though is that this T3 lounge is only 10,000 square feet. In contrast, the one in JFK is closer to 40,000 square feet, so a lot bigger, has the restaurant, has a lot of sitting area, and just a lot more going on. So there is a good argument for the second lounge to add to the overall footprint. Mind you that Delta is the lion of JFK at almost 30% market share, with JetBlue at 23%, and then American only at about 12%. A bit of me does wonder if Delta's desire to grow LAX is a function of maybe failures at another airport, specifically Seattle, where Delta tried to win market share, but Alaska's been defending their home turf pretty well. At the moment, Alaska has a 51% market share, while Delta is at 24%. Even though they have made inroads, the war for Seattle hasn't gone well for Delta. On a revenue basis, it's their worst performing hub financially. A lot of their tactics just haven't worked. The idea though is that if they can't make inroads in Seattle and it's a money sink, then it might make sense to just give up there or pull back and focus on LAX, where they can make it another JFK. And to be fair, I think LAX can work a lot better for them, since willingness to pay from those customers seems a lot higher. Let me know what you think though, and how you think this will turn out. The last story is actually pivoting back to Alaska. They're in Seattle and that's going great, but they're also trying to grow a lot elsewhere. Part of that is more West Coast service, and a few days ago, they actually opened a very fancy looking lounge in Portland. I do hope that they improve their food, since I think that's still a weak spot, but otherwise it looks pretty nice. Here's the bar, and it looks pretty amazing, and if you are a card holder, they have pretty nice drinks. I was actually in Portland a week ago, and it's always amazing to me how nice their airport is. Great weekend trip if you're into camping or glamping and just want to disconnect from your phone for a bit. I ended up staying at Under Canvas for a bit, which is part of Hyatt, and it was pretty solid. It is a very different stay, but I think it is worthwhile. The room itself is a very different vibe from most hotels, and a fun way to mix it up. As someone that did a lot of actual camping as a kid, this is the closest I've gone in a long time. Also really fun to bike around if that's your jam and you like being outdoorsy. Sadly, I didn't have the chance to try the lounge since my trip was right before it opened, but hopefully next time. Outside of the US, Alaska is growing very aggressively. Last year, they pushed pretty hard in Asia, with Korea as well as Japan, and this year it's Europe. So London, Rome, and also Iceland are up and running. The big question for most airlines, and also what I'm kind of concerned about, is whether these investments will pay off in the long term. Looking at stock price, Delta is in the lead, up 62% for the 1 year. United's at 29% and American at 16%, while Alaska is down 16%. The benefit for Delta is that they make so much money everywhere else that they could bleed money in Seattle and still be fine. Or again, if they give up in Seattle, they can choose to focus on LA, and even if they bleed money there in the short term, long term it can make sense. Alaska doesn't really have that luxury for stuff to not work. Having flown Alaska's international product from Seattle to Narita, which was technically the Hawaiian livery given that it was still a transition, I think it is competitive and solid, but I'd still give the edge to Delta. It's not bad at all, but it's a bit rough around the edges right now. But yeah, curious if you think Alaska can move themselves up to a strong number 4. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. And if you're curious, all legal affiliate disclosures can also be found below in the description box. If you made it to this point, leave a plain emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 3 questions. Number 1, are you booking any trips for the summer? And if so, are you doing award bookings or booking out of pocket? Number 2, do you focus or care about transfer bonuses? Or is it more about the destination or the flight products? Number 3, do you think Delta should focus on Seattle or just give up there and go purely into LAX? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, share this, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.